So, welcome back to another episode of the where I make a lore-accurate build for whatever character from whatever movie, with the caveat that I'm not allowed to use any duplicate perks, nor am I allowed to use that character's teachable perks. And the character we're going to be doing today is Freddy Krueger from Freddy vs. Jason, one of my favorite movies in the entire franchise. For our first perk, we have Hysteria. We learn in this movie that the source of Freddy's power is the collective knowledge of him. The more that people are aware and afraid of him, the more powerful he becomes. But due to the intervention of Springwood's officials, he's unable to actually regain his power. So in order to do so, he needs somebody to help him. And thus, Freddy recruits Jason Voorhees, which leads into our next perk, Help Wanted. Freddy's plan is to allow Jason to kill at least a couple people to make it look like Freddy is coming back to start a mass hysteria to regain his previous power. However, Jason gets a little too greedy, steps on Freddy's toes, and this ignites their deadly confrontation. For our next perk, we have Rapid Brutality. In this movie, Freddy is actually a very skilled combatant. Even though Jason is a lot more powerful and probably has a little bit more combat experience, Freddy makes up for it with his speed and his dexterity, dodging any lethal hits, slashing Jason left and right, and willing him down to the point where Jason actually seems like he might lose. And the only time that Jason actually gets a lick in is due to Freddy's own hubris, which leads into our next perk, Enduring. Freddy took a hell of a beating in this movie. Anytime Jason was actually able to hit Freddy, it hurt like hell. Jason dragged Freddy through a bunch of windows, threw him into another building, was able to actually rip Freddy's arm off, and then using that same arm and piercing Freddy in the chest, making Freddy just weak enough that Lori could come in for the killing blow. Or so she thought. Anyways, that's about it for the build, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this video. Let's get into the likes and dislikes for Freddy vs. Jason, one of my favorite movies in the entire franchise, and for my very first like, I have Jason motherfucking Voorhees. Jason is definitely the star in this movie. He has the most kills. He's probably one of the most brutal Jasons I have personally ever seen. If I'm going to be so honest, he's definitely one of the more powerful ones as well. He's not going to be as powerful as like Jason X, but he's definitely like up there with part 6 Jason or part 7 Jason in terms of raw power. Like, this guy is a fucking monster and just like a force of nature in this movie. He doesn't really have like his own character, I would say. I mean, there's a little bit you can pick apart from here and there, like for example his relationship with his mother and how Freddy uses that against him, and also after he figures out that Freddy, you know, kind of used him, then we dive a little bit deeper into Jason's psyche. But for the rest of the movie, he's pretty much just a walking fucking death symbol. My one gripe about this version of Jason is I really don't like how he looks so different from the previous versions. Don't get me wrong, this is one of my favorite looks for Jason overall. It's probably my top 3 or top 4 behind part 6 remake and part 7, but he just doesn't look like Jason. Like, it kind of makes me think, or I think that's actually probably the case, is that this is not Jason that we know from the Friday movies. This is a Jason within the Nightmare universe. Like, this is a variant of Jason that takes place within Freddy's timeline. That's simply it. I think that's exactly what it is, which doesn't really change my opinion about this version of Jason. He's still badass, he's still a fucking monster, but I really didn't like the look that they took. I really wish that they got Kane Hodder. I guess they had their own vision for Jason, and Kane Hodder just didn't fit the bill all that much, so they took the guy from Jason Takes Manhattan that fucking Kane Hodder threw into a fucking mirror and used him. But yeah, I mean, I love Jason in this movie. Also, I really like how agile Jason is. You wouldn't think that a guy as big as Jason is like, you know, as like powerful as him could move, but he fucking was moving, man. Like, he was able to keep up with Freddy half the time, even though like half his swings didn't fucking hit because Freddy is like a cat. He could just get out of the way really quick. He was still going at him. He looked like a fucking Jedi for a second there when he was fighting fighting Freddy in the construction site. Like, the guy was going ham on Freddy half the time. And speaking of Freddy, my next like is Freddy. Now, the thing about this Freddy in particular, I find it very hard to actually root for him. I found myself rooting for Jason pretty much 99% of the movie, and I prefer Freddy over Jason by a long shot. Freddy is my second favorite slasher in the entire fucking like horror genre, and I found myself actually wanting Jason to fucking beat the shit out of him, because I hated the fact that they put so much emphasis on the pedo shit with Freddy. Like, for example, with him licking the back of that girl's photo after he killed her in the very opening of the movie, I fucking hated that, dude. And also using the girl as a puppet later on in Laurie's dream to say he loves children, especially little girls. Like, Freddy, you're not beating the fucking allegations at this point. You're basically just emphasizing them more. Holy shit, dude. And then at the fucking end, when Laurie was asleep and he was terrorizing her in her nightmare, he said, you know, the first time tends to get a little messy. And then he proceeds to take his finger knives and go up her dress towards her. You know what? I hated that aspect of Freddy. I love the look of Freddy in this movie. This is probably my favorite look of Freddy in the entire franchise. I love how, you know, in some scenes he kind of just has like those rotten missing teeth, and then some scenes he also has sharp jagged ones like a fucking shark. And then Demon Freddy looks so fucking badass. But I hate the fact that they put so much emphasis on Freddy being a big old fucking pervert. I fucking hated it. But I still like Freddy overall in this movie. And I also like how powerful, not powerful, but how strong Freddy is in this movie in particular. Like, this is probably one of the strongest real world versions of Freddy we have ever seen. Probably even Dream World Freddy's. Like, this Freddy was going ham on Jason in the dream world, and everybody else as well. Like, the kills were so fucking creative. But the fact that Freddy is so strong that he's actually able to keep up with Jason for a majority of the fight is just insane to think about. And it kind of puts him on the same level of Jason a little bit, just a little bit. I don't know how he would fare against the actual Jasons from the actual Nightmare franchise, but at least this Jason, who is probably equally as powerful, he was putting in some fucking work, brother. But speaking of the Freddy versus Jason fight in particular, that is going to be my next like, and that is the fight itself. I kind of mentioned this before, but I like the different styles in which both of these guys fight. Like, for example, Freddy is a lot more cat-like with his approach. You know, he's going really fast, slashing wherever he can. He's trying to, like, incapacitate Jason over actually trying to kill him straight up, and then, you know, whittle him down to the very end. And then Jason is always going for the killing swing, but just can never hit Freddy because he's just too damn fast. It is a nice little balance between the both of them. My favorite specific fight in this movie is probably with Freddy bringing Jason into the dream world, and they have their boiler room fight with the red lights and then eventually turns green. Like, this fight was awesome. It's a little too cartoony for my taste. It kind of reminds me of part 4, 5, and 6, how Freddy turned more into like a Looney Tune character, mainly part 6, and he turns Jason into a literal pinball and bangs him all over the fucking boiler room, which is funny, it's cool, and it also shows how powerful Freddy is compared to Jason in the dream world. But at the same time, it's just a little too goofy. But other than that, like, but Jason being able to hold his own in the dream world with no dream powers, keep in mind, it is just him in the dream world doing his own thing, and he's actually doing something against Freddy. He gets a couple licks in before the whole water shit comes down and the whole Jason being afraid of water, which I'll get into in a couple minutes. But overall, this fight was fucking awesome, especially with that that tank falling on top of Jason, and he just fucking like, get the shit off of me. Like, Jason is just so cool. Next up on my likes, I have the dream sequences, and this movie had a lot of really good dream sequences. Honestly, I would say this is probably some of the best in the franchise. Not the best though, because definitely part 3 has some of the most iconic and best dream sequences in the entire franchise, but this one had a lot of really good ones. Like, for example, Laurie at the police station, and Gibbs at the cornfield when she goes into the boiler room, and then Freddy tries to attack her, but then Jason interrupts her and stabs her, gets her out of the dream world, and then Freddy's like, no, she's mine. Mine. I fucking love that scene so much, dude. What else? Also, Freddy going after Mark to prevent him from actually giving his knowledge about Freddy and how to stop him specifically. That scene was really cool as well, with his brother coming out of the bathtub all bloody and wrist stuff. I'm not gonna get too deep into that. I don't want to get like banned or anything like that. Also, the Freddy versus Jason dream sequence and how it kind of divulged into Freddy kind of just fucking with Jason and turning him into his kid form and then re-drowning him all over again to try to kill him all over again. That scene was fucking cool. And then Freddy turning into a fucking literal demon with the red lights and his makeup and all that shit. Dude, this movie was so badass. And then Laurie versus Freddy, which I I like the aesthetic of it. I don't like the context of it. I don't like the perverted aspect of it, but overall, it was a really cool sequence. And for my final like of this movie, I have the music, and specifically two parts of it. The very opening with how it has the little kick, 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 ma, ma, ma of Jason, and also mixed with the Nightmare theme with the ba, 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 and then it goes kick, 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 ma, ma, ma. That sounded fucking awesome. I wish there was a non-copyright version of that. That would be cool to have in my my backgrounds of my videos. But my favorite piece of music from this entire movie is when Freddy is brought to the real world and then he hears Jason behind him. He turns around, he's all scared like a little fucking pussy, and then the masterpiece ensues. Like, this movie is so 2000s code, it is ridiculous, man. For my very first dislike, I have the continuity errors. I really wouldn't call them errors all that much. I think they just took little teeny tiny things from the franchise and just made them bigger than they actually were. Like, for example, Jason's quote-unquote fear of water, question mark. Like, Jason has never had an explicit fear of water before. Like, he's more than willing to go into the lake every once in a while. Like, he does not fucking care. Like, the guy literally attacked Tommy Jarvis. He willingly went into the lake in part 6 to go and attack Tommy Jarvis, and half of his kills are like in the lake as well, so he's not afraid of water. But in this movie, Jason has a crippling fear of water, which I kind of have an excuse for. Like, I understand why they did it, because it is in the dream world that this happened, so Freddy can kind of heighten Jason's like PTSD from when he drowned as a kid to use against him. I guess you can make an argument for that, but making that like a crippling fear, like not just one that slows him down just a little bit, kind of weird, I'm not gonna lie. But it is your subconscious, so I understand like how that could kind of work. And also, like I mentioned before, I didn't like how this didn't really feel like the Jasons from the previous franchise with all the Kane Harder movies and all the movies before part 7. Like, it just didn't really feel like Jason all that much. Even though I love this Jason, this movie felt more like a Nightmare movie. It did not feel like a Friday movie whatsoever. I would not put this within the Friday genre. I would not put this on the same bookshelf as the fucking Friday movies. I would definitely put this alongside the Nightmare movies, by far. And also, how the fuck did they drive all the way from Crystal Lake, New Jersey to Springwood, Ohio within like 20 minutes? That was a literal 20-minute drive for them. Like, that is a big stretch to say that they went all the way from Ohio all the way to New Jersey within under an hour. They didn't really say under an hour at all, but there was no way they had enough tranquilizers to keep Jason under for like 8 hours. Like, there's no fucking way. Oh, that's actually all my dislikes. I kind of summed up the fear of water and the continuity flaws in the same one, so I'm actually done with my dislikes. All right, let's move on to the Loomis meter. If you don't know what this is, it's basically just a scale from 1 to 6.
I shot him 6 times!
1 being bad and 6 being amazing. And for Freddy vs. Jason, one of my favorite movies in this franchise, I'm gonna be giving it a 6 times out of 6. Like I said before, Freddy vs. Jason is one of my favorite movies in the entire franchise, and if you like the Nightmare franchise and you like the Friday franchise and you haven't seen this movie for whatever reason, please go treat yourself to this masterpiece of a movie. It's not, you know, the most high quality Hollywood movie you're ever going to see, but it is probably one of the more fun movies in the horror genre in general. But yeah, let me know what you thought about Freddy vs. Jason in the comments down below.
God damn you.